It's HPR One, All Things Considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence. This weekend, Booker T. Jones of legendary band Booker T. and the MGs headlining the Honolulu Festival in Honolulu. Monday, he's performing a special interview performance session at our HPR Atherton Performing Arts Studio. That one's sold out. And then Thursday, November 5th, he's at the MAC. Ahead of these shows, we're lucky to get this legendary multi-instrumentalist as our very special guest today. Booker, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
The multi-instrumental nature of you as a child, which came first and how?
The drum and the ukulele were first. Saw a ukulele in a 5 and dime store downtown Memphis. Taught myself by looking at the diagrams on the back of the package how to play the chords. Drumsticks on the floor after I broke the drum, of course. The first real instrument was clarinet that my dad bought me. My neighbor had been practicing oboe, and I heard that. And I taught myself to play that when I was in 4th grade to get into the Porter School band. The whole band was filled up, but the oboe was the only instrument left in the band room. So I took that up and made it into the band when I was 9 years old. Then the reed instrument, that led me to the clarinet, and that led me to the saxophones, the baritone saxophones. Nobody wanted to play that big old heavy thing. That was the instrument that got me into Stax Records.
Just dialing back to your first instrument, and I'm sure you can understand why, the ukulele.
Oh, I eventually lost the beautiful instruments I had. I had a regular ukulele, and that had a baritone ukulele, which had a little bit lower sound. Mm-hmm. But I guess it pretty much turned into the guitar, which is the first 4 strings of the ukulele. And that's what I have now. That's usually what I play, 6-string guitar. But that was the very first one that I held close to me was the ukulele. And, of course, where you are is ukulele country.
Good way of putting it. And you were how old when you grabbed the ukulele?
Man, I was very young, probably 6.
Wow.
5, 6 years old.
Another thing that I think is equally strange, attending Booker T. Washington High School.
Yeah, my namesake. And a lot of musicians went there. George Duke, Maurice White, we played together, school sock hops and concerts. Phineas Newburn.
William Bell. Maurice White was a buddy of yours and someone you got to play with?
Carried his first drum set down the street once.
Then at just 16, you mentioned it, but you were playing baritone sax on a Rufus and Carla Thomas song.
Yeah, Stax's first release,
Has to be a real formative experience.
It was. I was been trying to get through that little door. It was a converted movie theater. And I could get as far as the record store up front, but I couldn't get through the door where they were recording the music in the back. And David Porter took me through that door with my baritone sax in hand. So he came and got me out of my algebra class, 10 o'clock in the morning, which was okay.
And it was really hanging around the Satellite record shop that similarly you and, at the time, record clerk Steve Cropper got to know each other.
Yeah, it was a business relationship. There was not a lot of personal stuff going on, but he was a very generous clerk. He would let us listen to the records as long as we wanted to, and very often not buying one for many days at a time.
When you wrote Green Onions, you're in high school. Describe what led to you ending up behind an organ on that cut.
I had started piano lessons at age 10 or 11, and my piano teacher had a Hammond organ, and I was studying classical piano. Noticed the instrument in her dining room, and she played a little bit of a Bach prelude for me. And so I had to get more customers on my paper route because I had to get more lessons. Added the organ lessons to the piano lessons. And that's how I was introduced to the Hammond B3.
Forgive me if I don't have this right, but the M3 has the speaker built in, and the B3 is made to use with a Leslie.
Exactly.
Flashing back, getting to be known as the Stax Records house band.
I was a kid who was playing around town in the clubs, a little organ group, and playing other instruments too, playing bass and guitar or whatever I could get a gig on. So I was just kind of a jack of all trades that they happened to call when they needed a keyboard player.
At the same time, as this is sort of happening, if you can explain your pursuit of classical music composition and transposition at Indiana University, dividing your time between school and these, what I would say are pretty important weekend gigs in Memphis.
Yeah, it was an absolute challenge. I took a theory class when I was in 11th and 12th grades in high school in order to pass the jury at Indiana to get into the school. But once I did get in, of course, I saved money from the paper route and stock sessions to pay the tuition. But to keep things going, I drove from Bloomington, Indiana to Memphis, and that was 400 miles.
Wow.
So I left as soon as class was over on Friday afternoon and drove to try to make the Friday night session, and then back again on Monday morning until they got a flight from Bloomington to Memphis, which made it a little easier. But But yeah, I burnt out an engine out of a 1963 Galaxy 500 trying to get back and forth between Indiana and Memphis.
Because you just wanted to do those gigs so bad.
Yeah, it was a little bit more than that, too. The sessions at Memphis were also paying the tuition at Indiana.
Ah, financial.
I was making money in Memphis, and I was learning stuff in Indiana. I was taking music theory, I was taking composition, conducting. And so I was able to write their lead sheets for them. I was able to conduct the string sessions and so forth.
On that Stax note, you were eventually named VP, and yet you were unhappy enough with aspects of that relationship to leave.
Well, Dave, the Stax that I left was not the same company that I started with. Stax that I left was owned by Paramount Pictures, which was owned by Gulf and Western in New York City, and they were hands-on owners. Wall Street companies, when they started making a lot of money, they started buying other companies, smaller companies that were profitable, and telling them how to run their companies.
Another 70s chapter, Bill Withers, you on board, not just as producer and arranger, but you also play quite a bit on the record.
Well, that was when the corporate world kind of worked in my favor. The guy that actually sold Stax is the one that called me to tell me to listen to Bill Withers, Clarence Avant. Said, I really want you to hear this guy. He sent Bill out to the ranch, and Bill started singing his songs.
What was the first thing from him you heard?
I think he sang Ain't No Sunshine first thing.
Willie Nelson's Stardust album, Memories. He was your neighbor?
Yeah, I had an apartment on the beach in Malibu, and Willie liked to run up and down the beach, and I used to think, well, that guy looks a lot like Willie Nelson. Waved at him. One day he waved back, and he came up, and yeah, it was Willie Nelson.
And he had been saying that whole time, that guy looks so much like Booker T, but I'm not going to go say nothing. You still tight with him?
Oh, absolutely. We're friends. Yeah, I got a call from him. My son passed away in December, and Willie called to give me his condolences. He lost his son when we were working down in Texas.
God bless your boy.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. He lives on Maui, too.
Heard he had a house on Maui. I've never been over there.
Maybe you shoot him an email. Get in touch. Good place to take in some quiet if you've got time.
Oh, that's good advice, Dave. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nah, you're welcome. The only time that I remember seeing you in concert, Booker, and I could be wrong, but it was with Neil Young. It was 1993.
Yeah, I played with him later in the 2000s when he was with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I had kind of drifted away from music when I moved to Northern California. The music industry in the early 80s was not kind to me. Disco had come in, but I wasn't doing that music, and it wasn't until I got with Neil up in Northern California that I really started playing again.
When it comes to the MGs, pioneering, racially integrated band.
Well, yeah, the whole thing was tenuous, playing music. It was always tenuous for blacks, and then when whites came to play with blacks like they did, it became tenuous for them. They were treated like we were once they were in a band with us. So they had to go in the back door with us or not be accepted at places and not be able to play. But it wasn't our purpose to try to integrate anything. We were just wanted to make music together.
Chemistry, I guess, between Steve Cropper, Donald Duck Dunn, Al Jackson Jr., yourself.
I think it was an original sound, and it was pretty unpretentious. And it was, accessible. It was soul music with a good beat.
It made an impression on folks. So people like even the Beatles, right? I read great story of them greeting you guys in '67. They hit the road Stax tour.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
I do. I didn't realize the import of the people we were meeting at the time. So I think I didn't pay as much attention to them if I had known what big stars they were going to be.
And you're one of those guys who can flash it all the way forward. You can say, well, throughout my life, I've been able to have an impact on people, not just the Beatles who were impressed. I mean, I flashed to 2011, rode from Memphis, Questlove, Kirk Douglas, Owen Biddle from The Roots, getting you a Grammy. Also the 2009 Drive-By Truckers. Again, you get to kind of come together with them and then score all these Grammys. At that point in your life, you must have thought, wow.
Yeah, that's fortunate. I'm looking at them right now. It's hard to believe.
And there's a lot of lessons in that. One could take a step back and take away music from the whole thing and think back to the beginning of the conversation. Driving 400 miles, the kind of work that involves, the kind of dedication, and then the long-term payback gives one hope that if you work hard, there could be some sort of redemption.
Well put. And that's what it is payback. And it's very nice, very gratifying.
I could sit and talk with you all day.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed talking to you. Absolutely.
Grateful for your time and this thing that we're going to be doing.
It'll be good to meet you, and we can just hang out a little bit.
This coming Monday, we'll have some fun together.
All right. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it.
Booker, be safe.
Good to hear. I got a big smile on my face. Thanks a lot, Dave. Aloha. This is Booker T. Jones, and you're tuned in to my friend Dave Lawrence.